Welcome back, and we are happy to welcome you back to the wonder of my radio electronic conference, the expo and awards. And we will
ये क्या बज रहा है? Somebody put on the speakers.
and I will request all our speakers to present their own view. And then I requested speakers to actually the session there. So this session is about enhancing safe beach recovery from water recycling. Now, under the new rules laid down by the government,
मेरा हो
our
जाता
plants
है,
have
sorry.
installed
मुझे मालूम ही नहीं
energy
था।
units to reduce their emissions. Waste heat and water recovery.
Good afternoon, all. I think Akshay has some troubles in joining, so I overcharged him to start the session. Now, I welcome all everybody to this session, which is. Let me introduce myself. I am Ashwin Kumar. I represent Mission Energy Foundation as one of the employees as a Director General. Uh, I will request Mr. Naresh Patil to start his presentation.
Yeah, good afternoon. Are you able to hear me? Hello.
And just a reminder to all the participants, this is a chance
There are actually two conferences running parallelly, so I could hear both the voices. I will request Mr. Naresh Patil to start his presentation.
Mr. Khatri, you are able to hear my voice?
to this
Hello. Mr. Khatri?
as well. So you,
Mr. Khatri?
if they come to your mind,
Hello.
You can use the arrow button down to present yourself.
Welcome back, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Perfect. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Welcome back, and I would like to welcome all the delegates that we have who have joined us for the 6th edition of SOXNOX Virtual Conference. It's the 6th edition of SOXNOX event that we are doing virtually, which has conference, expo, and awards to it. We saw some wonderful presentations from the technical leaders from the power industry. We started with a wonderful panel discussion, and we moved forward with some amazing technical presentations from the senior leaders. And moving forward, we have another lineup of wonderful speakers joining us for the second half of the event, where we have Mr. Naresh Patil ji, Mr. Shyam Patra ji, and Mr. Shashi Kumar ji joining us from different organizations, starting from Tata Power to BHEL to Damodar Valley Corporation. To start the post-lunch event, I would request Mr. Naresh Patil to please turn on his video and join us on stage. Good afternoon, Mr. Patil.
Hi.
How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you? Fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
You are able to hear me?
Absolutely. We are very clear and audible.
Okay. I am just sharing now. Let
Sure.
me just quickly go to screen. No.
Yeah,
I'm
you
saying
will see an up
PDF and
arrow. You will see an
share
up arrow where you have to click on share screen, and then you will
Okay.
see an entire screen button.
Okay, share and
You have minimized this. Wonderful.
you are able to see my presentation? Hello.
Absolutely, Mr. Patil.
Just a moment. I'm just getting a distorted
Yes, I
voice.
can. I can see. I can see. I can see your
Okay, okay,
presentation.
okay. Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for giving us an opportunity to present our case here. And since morning we are engaged and we are listening to various dignitaries and those who are from various industries. Our chief engineering actually gave a detailed presentation on the on FGD roadmap, or what we are as in Tata Power doing, or we are putting up on FGDs in various other divisions, and there was an elaborate discussion and detailed information given. In this session, I am going to actually tell you about how clean, or how clean we are, how clean we are generating our power at Trombay, Mumbai. So basically, I will be presenting a case related to Tata Power's Trombay Thermal Power Station, which is basically actually located in Mumbai, and which is a mix of coal, oil, and gas. Presently, it is operating on mostly on gas and coal. Oil is, oil unit is actually shut down, and our main is focused is on coal and gas. So even though we are burning coal, but this is one of the best stations which we are operating using the imported fuel as in coal. So that's why we call it as a green generator, and it is an environment friendly station. And I'll be taking you through various things which we are doing in terms of a clean generator. Basically, starting with founder's vision, this was, the clean, cheap, and abundant power is one of the basic ingredients for the economic progress. So this was the basic vision of our founder, Mr. Jamshedji. And with this vision, actually, he started looking for a clean energy or clean generation of power in Mumbai. Because there was a demand during that time in Mumbai where the power was required. Hence, the station of Trombay Thermal Power Station was set up so as to provide, the power to city of Mumbai, which will be basically on the aspects of clean, cheap, and abundant. That was the main motive for conceiving this station in Trombay. See, now looking at my station, this is what is my configuration of the station. We have Unit 5, which is commissioned in 1984, which is actually a multi-fire unit wherein I can burn coal also, oil also, and gas. And the typical part of this is the coal which we are getting is in 100% imported coal, wherein I'll be sharing some specification of this coal and how it is environment friendly. That will be coming up in next slides. This Unit 6 is on basically oil, and it is presently in economic shutdown mode, and it is on standby mode. And then we have a Unit 7, which is having a capacity of 180 megawatt, wherein we are burning gas. And again, Unit 8, which is commissioned in 2009, which has a capacity of 250 megawatt, which operates again on a clean fuel. We call it as a clean fuel because the constituents and the characteristics of this fuel is such a sort of thing, wherein we call it as a clean fuel. So this is the total capacity of the station. And being in the city of Mumbai, this station is centrally located in Chembur area of Mumbai suburban, and the entire station is situated in on a parcel of hardly 430 acre of a land parcel basically. uh, this is the highlight. We Mr. Gadre also, from our chief of engineering, he also shared this information that Tatas are always in the first of these things, like first 150 megawatt, 500 megawatt, first GIS station, and so on and so forth. We have a 800 megawatt Mundra unit also. So and then FGD, now we are in the conference wherein we are looking and we are discussing about the meeting of the norms, putting of an FGD. But in Trombay at thermal and in Trombay, the first FGD, it came in 1984-85 only, along with the unit itself. So the concept of reduction of SO2, reduction of norm, this was there right from the day one, or right from the inception of these units. So today actually I don't have to do anything related to meeting of this new norm, because there are FGDs since unit 5 commissioning. Then after commissioning of unit 8, the FGD also commissioned along with this unit 8 actually. So these are a part and parcel of our agenda, part and parcel of our project, wherein we always look at the compliances with various notification in advance. So this is what is our first milestone, milestone for achieving of the new heights. Again, a typical part wherein we talk about a lot of related to the SO2 emission. But Trombay Thermal Power Station is one of the station which has got a very stringent norm, which is a load-based norm for the SO2 emission. So it is there right from day one. It is we are following this since 15 to 20 years. This norm is there since 15 to 20 years for us. So that's what we are saying. We are there right from the day one, and we are meeting with all the emission norms which is given by the MOEF. These are the certain highlights. Our station is established in 1956. Then we have a FGD plant in 1986. Also, there are we have first 275-meter stack for unit 6. And typically we are using low sulfur, low ash coal. To going to the extent, the sulfur content in the coal is hardly 0.1 to 0.15% compared with the domestic coal, and the ash content is it is hardly 5% maximum in our coal. So that's why we are generating very low ash actually, and the sulfur emission is very low also from our plant. That's why we are able to utilize 100% ash in nearby Mumbai area, which is one of the very critical part in today's scenario. There are online CMS system, set up in Unit 5 and all the units basically, to monitor, keep a watch on emission basically. And these things are already connected to CPCB and MPCB server. We have a state-of-art coal unloading facility here at Trombay. We will share you a few glimpses of this facility in next slides. Basically, the entire clean generation is working in a manner like we have a fuel which we burn, we call it as a green fuel, and then we achieve operational excellence with this fuel. Then we have a water management system also, wherein we track the water per megawatt water consumption. Though we have a seawater based plant, we are measuring water consumption for the fresh water, because once we have a once through cooling system. So as per the MOEF norm, this once through cooling is exempted in terms of water consumption now, but we monitor water consumption for the fresh water consumption. We have a better waste management, and then we have one of the good investment energy management system. So in this way, by following all these aspects, we say that we are one of the clean generator in the industry. In terms of fuel management, as I told, like we have, we are using 100% imported coal. The coal comes from the Indonesia. The sulfur content is 0.1 to 0.15% max. Actually, the ash content is very low to 5%, and we are using natural gas also in Unit 7. In terms of emission standards, we have a stringent standard for SO2 emission. There are already FGDs placed for Unit 5 and Unit 8. The PM emission norms for Unit 5 is 150, though it is a 30-year-old plant. We are meeting it below 100. We are keeping it, when we are getting a norms of below 100. The PM emission for Unit 8 is 100, though it is 100, but we are keeping it, or we are getting the required result below 50 milligrams actually as on date. SO2 NOx emission for Unit 7 is 150 ppm. So all these standards are at current scenario. We are meeting with all these standards as per the guidelines given by MOEF. This is one of the very sophisticated and state-of-art technology which we have set up at Trombay for unloading of coal. Basically, this is a screw unloader, which is literally making your fugitive emission zero. There are zero spillages because the entire coal is goes in through the screw conveyor to through the screw to the conveyor basically. And this is giving you a huge efficiency compared with the grab unloader. So this is one of the fine technology which we have installed to save the environment basically. And coupled with this is the pipe conveyor system, which carries the coal basically to the plant. So this coal goes through the pipe conveyor, and this conveyor helps in reducing the fugitive emission while carrying the coal to the boiler basically. The entire system from coal unloading to the feeding of the boiler is happening through this pipe conveyor, which is one of the very critical aspect of our system. So this makes us a very typical part wherein we are really reducing our fugitive emission from the plant during the transportation of coal. We have a coal pile runoff system also, wherein the water gets collected from the coal yard and same is treated, and again sent back to final disposal without sending this coal laden water into the system. And then we have a dust suppression system at every junction tower and at the periphery of the coal yard, wherein this dust is suppressed at the source itself, which is helping the environment for this aspect. There are natural barriers created around the coal yard basically, and typically the coal comes with the moisture content of 20 to 22%. So that again reduces the fugitive emission of coal while handling. And then there are three-layer plantation created around the coal yard with bamboo tree, and this helps us in preventing the fugitive dust emission while handling the coal from the coal yard. We have a desulfurization system, which is basically a seawater system, scrubbing system, which is placed at unit 5 and unit 8. We have a cold dust suppression systems also, low NOx burner, and our ESPs are very efficient. They are above 99.5% efficiency, which is giving a constant efficiency and reducing our dust emission. These are the few things wherein we are doing heat rate improvement, which is causing us saving in the natural resources in long term way. Again, this is the resource utilization wherein we are reducing the use of oil, which is we are sending it to outside, and a lot of part we are filtering again and reusing in the system. In July month, around about 320 to 800 liter of oil sample, oil we actually recycled in the system. Until today, 2,600 liters of oil we have recycled and reused in the system. This is one of the part wherein we are using saving the natural resources which is available in the system. Water management, we have done a lot of things under water management, even though we are not able to do much part in the seawater because it's a once through cooling. So we are mostly concentrated on the freshwater consumption in DM plant and service water processes. There are certain initiatives like backwater recovery during backwashing, sail overflow recovery, rainwater recovery, rainwater harvesting we are doing at plant. So our actually 0.22 megawatt meter cube per megawatt hour was the fresh water consumption in FY16, which we have brought down to 0.14 meter cube in FY20. So it is about 50% reduction in the water consumption, which we have achieved during the course of 4 to 5 years. And going forward, we are again aiming for reduction of much more water consumption, fresh water consumption in the plant. And for that, we have actually set a target, and then there are various action plan taken up during the process. And this is what we are talking about, the specific water consumption. If you look at it is giving us the present of 0.14%. There are various initiatives taken: identification of passing walls, identification of leakage in city water lines, and then we have actually installed two sewage treatment plant with a capacity of about 100 meter cube each. And this treated 100 meter cube or 150 meter cube of water on a daily basis is being utilized for gardening and spraying on coal yard, on dust separation processes. So this is actually saving us a lot of water, fresh water consumption. This is what is this STP plant looks like, and we are using 125 meter cube of water each day, and the same water is utilized in the internal system for gardening and other these things. In terms of waste management, we have a very good process of waste management, and going ahead, we are even touching upon the bulbs, tubes, and all. These are commonly ignored things, but we are taking care of these things also. And these things we are sending it to the safe disposal site, which is saving the environment. This thing, even recently we have even started sending the plastic waste to the recycling units. In terms of other waste management initiative, we have a bioremediation project where we are treating the oily waste and then converting into the soil. We are using bottom ash for greenery purposes, where the bottom layer will be of a bottom ash and the top layer will have a greenery on above. So this is one of the initiatives. And then paper recycling is one of the initiatives which is being followed at Trombay. Whatever paper waste which we are generating here in Trombay, we are preparing writing pads out of this paper waste, and then same pads are being utilized again internally for various other purposes. uh, then we have a biogas plant also, which is being used for treatment of kitchen waste from kitchen area. These are few slides wherein we have developed gardens using water mesh activity. Again, waste management, there are certain initiatives which is taken, like reuse of water, reuse of water bottles with bottom ash filled, and we are creating a wall with this bottom ash basically. This is the ash utilization on an year-on-year basis. So since 10 to 15 years. Hello. Hello.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Mr. Patil.
Mr. Akshay, you are able to hear me?
Absolutely, I can able to hear you, but I cannot see your presentation. If you can reshare it again.
Okay, एक second.
जी.
I guess there is some connectivity issue. Huh? Just bear with me for
No problem. Yeah, you have to minimize this and start with the presentation.
Yeah, you are able to see the slide, no?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I was on the ash utilization slide. So we are one of the 100% ash utilization plant on year basis. We are using 100% ash every year for various purposes, and we are getting utilization every year, and we'll be doing it on a year basis. We have a established energy management system. We are certified ISO 50001 2018, and in this way we initially measure, and then we review, then we improve, and then we have objectives and ENMS policy which is in place basically, which helps us in getting the target done. These are the various projects which we have taken up: rooftop and changing of old rooftops, and then lighting projects which has taken up in the Trombe premises. These are again various illumination projects for improvement of lux levels in the plant premises, which is helping us in conserving the energy at various stages. This is related to again the auxiliary consumption as a part load in Unit 5, and then there are various action taken: stopping of CW pump, ID fans, reduction in Unit 5 PA headers, optimizing number of coal mills, reduction of instrumentation, air pressure. So all these things are basically leading us to a green sort of in wherein we are using all sort of technologies and all sort of aspects to make the plant green and to generate power in a very green way. This is the slide related to the meeting of norm. These are our current levels of SOx, NOx, and SPM from our plant. And if you see, we have a very stringent norms of 150 milligrams, and then 200 and 600 and 300 NOx, and we are all meeting presently with the FGD. So we don't have to do any capex improvement or any capex involvement for meeting of these new norms, because we have already things in place right from the day one. This is the online analyzer system which is already connected to MPCB server and CPCB server basically, and they are able to see our data sitting in their offices, and they are closely monitoring our emissions and operations. We are already integrated management system implemented company. We have all three standards implemented: OSAS, ISO, ENMS, and QMS. And regularly we are updating, and the audits being done on a regular basis by the external agencies, and all the systems are in healthy conditions basically. Now these are all certain related to 5 years activity, which is improving the housekeeping and aesthetics of the plant. And there are various good practices and 5 years implementation across the plant. If you see, there are visible marking, there are visible boards, there are pathways. They are clearly marked in a good way to improve the working condition of the plant basically. These are again the few photographs which are the best practices and which are related to the 5 years implementation projects. Care for ecology, we are actually on the coast of the sea basically, and there is a huge sort of a flocks of flamingos basically. They visit every year, and they stay here for 2 to 3 months, and then again they go back, and again they appear on the next year. So this is giving us a very good indicator that our operations are not impacting environment at any point of time. There are various aerators placed for reduction of temperature, and then we have started using biodegradable plastic, which is in line with the notification issued by MOEF, and this is what is causing us an improvement in the environment management at our site. We have various received award. We have received 3 leaves award from CSCA, when we have received award on meeting SO2 NOx standards also for the Trombe thermal power stations. There are various awards which we have received in CII, wherein these are all related to energy efficiency award in the recent years basically. Thank you very much. This was related to Trombe thermal power station, how green we are in terms of producing power and in terms of meeting all the statutory norms which is given by MOEF. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Padler, for the presentation and sharing the practices and the details that your plant is going through. And with that, I would request Mr. Shama Patraji to unmute and turn on his video so that we can have you on stage. Wonderful.
Good afternoon to all. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to 6th edition, Mr. Patra.
Thank you.
Requesting you to please share your screen so that we can start with this session. Wonderful. Over to you, Mr. Pat.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to all. I am Sama Prasad Patra. I am from DVC, Damodar Valley Corporation, Kolkata. This is basically the outline of my presentation. I will touch upon few points like DVC in brief, brief note about DVC, then new emission norms which emerged basically in 2015, then our status about award of FGDs of our different plants. Then I'll be going through the challenges that we are facing while implementation of FGD, and of course the new timeline which has come in this year, basically March 2021, and of course there may be some questions. A brief note about Damodar Valley Corporation. Basically, it was established in 1948 by the Act of Parliament. Basically, its main purpose was to improve the quality of lives of the Damodar Valley area, because every year there used to be a lot of floods, a lot of inundation, a lot of sufferings to the people, and so basically just to stop those floods, basically, and to give quality power to the people in the valley area. That is basically the main motto, and in that direction, basically we had built several dams, we had built power plants, and now basically we are mainly into power generation along with our earlier mandates also. This is in a nutshell about our power generation assets. We are having hydels, we are into thermals, also we are basically into joint ventures with DVC, with SAIL, with Tata Power for our Mithun projects. We are having our coal mines also. Those are, some are fully operational, some are going to be operationalized very shortly. So all these power plants, mostly these power plants are new. Earlier old power plants, some of them already we have discarded them, and so mostly our power plants are new. Early it was commissioned in the year 2010, 11, 12 onwards. Some are somewhere commissioned in the year 86, 90 are there, but before that, all these power plants that were established, that were commissioned in 1960s, that has been decommissioned. This new environment rules, new laws. Basically, we are aware of this. This is the landmark decision taken by MOEF in the year 2015 to reduce the emission levels of the running plants. These norms, basically, we are all aware of, so we are not going into much details of it. These are the permissible limits of shocks for our power plants. Mainly, you see, for 500 megawatt plants, the limit is 200 milligram per 1 meter cube, and for smaller plants like 210 or 250 megawatt, the limit is 600. And regarding NOx, the limit is 450. Earlier it was 300. Now it has been changed to 450 milligram per 1 meter cube. And of course, here it constitutes some smaller units also. Basically, it is decided basically on the fact that in which year these units are commissioned. If these units are commissioned after 2003 December, then the limit is 450. Before that, the limit is 600. So we are having basically 500 megawatt, 600 megawatt, 210 and 250 megawatt units, and we are taking actions for all those units. So this is basically the status of award of our FGD installation. You will see that we have almost awarded for all the plants except one plant, that is Chandrapura 2 into 250 megawatt. This is under tendering stage. Otherwise, all plants we have already awarded. For bigger units, 500 megawatt and 600 megawatts, those plants were awarded in the year 2019 itself, in July. And for smaller units, basically we have awarded in the year February 2021. Mainly the EPC players are L&T, Thermax, and Techno Electric. The technology what we are basically installing in all those For LNT, Andal, MTPS, and RTPS, the technology is jet bubbling technology, jet bubbling reactors. And for Koderma and BTPS, this is basically the technology is open spray tower. This is as per the basically the requirement of their QFGDA qualified flue gas desulfurization manufacturer standards. They are supplying. And for material 1 to 6, here the total is 1340 megawatt, consists of 210 megawatt units and 2 megawatt units, which are awarded in February 21. And the EPC there is Larsen and Toubro. Here the technology they are providing us is spray tower type, unlike their earlier technology, which was jet bubbling technology. And along with this, also we have awarded for all our plants the DeNOx installation system. We have already awarded. This is basically a combustion modification system. So we have to bring down the levels to 450 milligram per normal meter cube. And here the EPC player is BHEL. Here you will see that we have awarded all the projects. For bigger units, we had taken up earlier, and the award was in the year 2019 itself. And for smaller units, 210 and 250 megawatt, we have awarded in the year 2020. We are facing especially what installation in the since so we are getting basically a lot of surprises, like demolition of and shifting of existing facilities. Some pipes are underground which are to be rerouted. So these surprises are basically we are facing almost day-wise basis. And the second challenge is what we are facing is the high lead time of the imported materials, such as clad plate, C276 and titanium, and the borosilicate glass book lining system. So basically, there are some imports which we are basically making, because these items are not available indigenously. So we are dependent on imports, and these are basically causing us a little delay. And also, along with this COVID-19, this is basically adding some worries to us. The third challenge is what we are facing in FGD installation is lack of skilled manpower in India for application of borosilicate material inside chimney flue can, which is a new job, new thing. So obviously, skilled manpower are not easily available. The explosion bonding of flat plates in India, but quality is an issue. Availability is an issue. Is the welding of absorber clad plates at site. So these are basically some of the issues which we are facing, and I think every player is also facing in the same way. And you know that COVID-19 this has impacted all of us. Basically, that's why inspection and testing of materials are getting delayed. Manufacturing plants are shut down. Some are now opening, but with some reduced capacity, with still not fully open. So this is causing the delay in implementation. And this cost of steel and cement has increased basically by leaps and bounds. It has increased, I think, almost 50% in the recent time. So this is causing another woes to the EPCs. Transportation of limestone from the mines into the plant is a big challenge, and is going to be a bigger challenge in future when all the plants will be fitted with FGD system, because mostly what we are installing is limestone based wet FGD. So everybody will be requiring this limestone, and its transportation is logistics to, from mines end to a plant end. I think it will be a nightmare for all of us, because the limestones is mainly available in the area Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, MP. Of course, some imports may be there, but that all fitted with the requirement per year for all the plants, it is going to be another right for all of us. because sourcing of mines, sourcing of disposal of gypsum, again, it will be another challenge. So basically, these applications are very few applications are there, like in cement plant or gypsum wall boards are there. So those aspects, all generators are finding avenues to dispose of, either to sell it or either to use it in different ways. And with the installation of FGD and DINOX system, so our unit tariff rate is going to increase. Approximately 25 to 30 paisa per unit price is basically unavoidable. Along with that, auxiliary power consumption also is going to increase. So with this introduction of emission control systems, basically thermal power plants are becoming unviable, because with the influx of renewables into the grid, and with cheap renewables, so it is becoming very difficult for us to do business in the thermal sector. So way forward, basically, since the pollution levels after installation of the ECS in the plants will be reduced considerably. So the coal cess, what basically we are basically paying, it is approximately say 400 rupees per ton. That can be waived off. So if this prayer is basically accepted by the government, then I think impact of tariff due to installation of ECS that can be minimized considerably. Otherwise, the entire burden has to be borne by the customers. So which is really not easy for the customers to cough up that increase due to installation of ECS. Policies should be framed for supply of limestone to plants, because the limestones are mainly owned by the private players. So once the demand will be there, obviously price is going to increase, and we do not know what will be the price when all the plants will be fitted with FGD system. So this is basically, and again, with the increase in the prices of limestone, again there will be price rise in the tariff, and basically again that has to be borne by the customer. Policy on utilization of gypsum may be framed, because just like our the ash what we are generating, so now there are a lot of policies are there, 100% utilization of dry fly ash and used in cement industry. So like that also, I think that policy we can frame for utilization of gypsum, so that it can be disposed of properly. So these things basically, if we can implement, so I think then we can run the power plants without much difficulty in future. So this is the timeline for installation. This is the latest timeline. What we have basically MOEF had notified in the current year itself, in March 2021. So there are basically, they have distinguished it into three different categories. Category A, where the plants is located 10-kilometer radius of national capital region or cities having million plus population. Here the deadline is 31st December 2022 for non-retiring units, and of course for those units which are going to be retired, there it is also 2022. For category B, the radius of critically polluted areas or non-attainment cities, the timeline is December 2023. And of course, for those units which are going to be retired, that they can run the unit up to December 2025. And for category C units, other than those included in category A and B, here it is the timeline is December 2024. And for those units which are going to be retired, that the timeline is December 2025. This is the latest guidelines issued by MOEF NCC considering the COVID impact and COVID-19 and etc. That's all, I think, from this end.
Thank you, Mr. Patra, for the session, and thank you for stop sharing the screen. Now, I would, before we move to the Q&A session, I would request Mr. Sashi Kumar to please turn on his audio and video so that we can have the final presentation for this session and we move forward.
Yeah.
Over to you, Mr. Sashi Kumar. I would request you to please share your screen.
Is it audible?
You are absolutely audible. Requesting you to share the screen. Wonderful, wonderful. Over to you, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. On the behalf of like BHL, we want to thank you, the Mission Energy Foundation, to invite BHL for this conference on the controlling the SOX and implementation of FGD in the Indian thermal power plants. So here today I'm going to cover like what are the SO2 abatement technologies are available, and we can see what is the way forward towards the implementation of FGD in India. Then we'll see what are the challenges we are facing in the execution of projects in India currently. So basically, BHL, we have all the pollutant control devices in our portfolio. We are having DNOx, we are having ESP, and as well as for the FGD. So today's session, I'm going to take on the FGD. So these are the topics I'm going to cover today. First, we'll see the global and Indian market summary. Then we'll see some brief note on the MOF norms. Then we'll see why FGD are required and what are the technologies globally available, and in India also what are the technology adapted. Then we'll see what is the technology adapted by the BHL. Then we'll see the comparison of FGD technology, the space requirement, typical space requirement for the FGD installation, and in case if there is a change in the CPCB guidelines in the future, what are the precautions to be taken care for recently for the design of the FGD now, and what is the FGD capital cost and increase in auxiliary power consumption. Then we'll see what is the FGD installation duration and commissioning period, and some recommendation we want to give to the stakeholders for the implementation in the current FGD plants, and challenges what we are facing in today's day. So first we'll see the global and Indian market summary. Okay, so before goes to this summary, I want to just tell you here, we BHL, we having a collaboration with Mitsubishi Power Limited Japan, and our collaboration is like valid for April 2013 to April 2028. And here like a transfer of entire technology for wet limestone and sea based FGD, and with the reference of like a qualification of MPL, we will be quoted in all the power plants in India. And in earlier, BHL has foreseen that the norms is going to be changed in the future. So that is why we have tied up with the Mitsubishi Power System earlier before the norms comes to in India. So this is a global market summary. Okay, currently what is the status of FGD globally? So this is a survey done by one Mackay Power company. If you see here from the 2011 till 2016, there is a decreasing in trend. So the FGD installation has been come down till 2016, and suddenly if you see from the 2017 to 2020, there is an increase in trend. This is only because of the norms has come to in India in December 2015, and the number of installation FGD has gone up. Due to that, the installation globally, the market share of the FGD has gone up. If you want to see in the terms of like units and megawatt, for 2020 only you see around 33 gigahertz of plants has been awarded. Wherein in terms of you want to see in megawatt, it is around 25% higher compared to the previous year, and 26% higher in the units in compared to the previous year. So if we will see here what is our Indian share and what is the Asian market here. So if you see Asian market, it's almost like a 134 gigahertz of plants has been under execution that FGD has been allotted. In terms of unit is around 311, and in India, if you want to see, it is around 71 megawatt of plant in from 2016 to 2020. It is around 72 megawatt. And in terms of unit, you want to see in the scrubbers, number of scrubbers, it is around 145. So India is a number one, there is no doubt. After these norms, our stakeholders has taken a very good initiative to meet these emission norms for these NOx and SOx, and we are in the number one in the market share. And if you see the second place was the China, where they also have very good share of 42 megawatt, and where the installation, which is under installation, is around 150. So these are the players globally available. If you see, first one is a Mitsubishi Power, second Electrical, Chiyoda, and many Chinese players are there. Doosan, Andrich, everybody is there. So Mitsubishi, if you see from 2015 to 2019, they having around 82 megawatt 82 megawatt of plant, and in 2020 they're having a 20 megawatt. In terms of unit, you want to see it with Mitsubishi, it is around 45 megawatt from 2014 to 2019, and it is in 2000. Sorry, this 82 is nothing but the number of units till 2019, and in 2020 they got around 20 number of units of observers. In terms of megawatt rating, you want to see it is around 45.5 megawatt in till 2019, and in 2020 it is around 7.5 megawatt. So Mitsubishi, the share has been increased only of the big BHL. We got many orders recently for last 2.5 years. Because of that, the share of the Mitsubishi has been gone up. So second position was the GE Electric, where they also holds very good share of the FGD business in India. So now we'll go to briefly. Any earlier speakers, everybody they have explained nicely on the norms. Anyway, I'll just briefly touch on the emission norms, how the norms has been changed. So this is a norms. Before the norms comes to in India, this is a scheme normally the power plant we used to follow. So from the furnace first pass, it go to the second pass, then it go to the aerator, VSP, then IDFAN, it go to the stack. This is a normal scheme we used to follow, and this is applicable for both supercritical and subcriticals. For particulate matter, based on the local emission agency, there was some control will be there, 100 milligram or 150 milligram. For NOx and SOx, there was no control before this norms comes to India, and whatever we are generating at the furnace, it is directly going to the stack. So this is a background of the emission norms. If you compare from 1984 to 2017, this is a background. From the 1984, there was no control on NOx and SOx, only particulate matter. We're having 350 milligram and 150 milligram. Whereas in 1989, they have introduced one more parameter, which the height of the chimney has to be increased, and they are given a guideline, some formulas, H is equal to 14 into Q to the power 0.3. So the height of the chimney, they have decided 220 for less than 500 megawatt, and if the unit rating is more than 500 megawatt, the chimney height should be 275 meter. So with this, we used to dilute the flue gases like a SOx and NOx, but there is no control. So whatever we are generating, we are just simply increase the height of the chimney, and we are just controlling the SO2. And 2012, they have used one more parameter to try the use of the beneficiate coal to reduce the pollutant gases. And 2013, further they have stringent the particulate matter 50 and 100, and stack at they kept at the same 220 and 275 meter. And 2017, as you may well aware that there was a stringent regulation has come from the MOF, and there was a for particulate SO2, NOx, and mercury also. So this is the norms. They have categorized the norms in three categories: the installation before December 2003, and the installation from January 2004 to December 2016, and the third category they have made in after January 2017. So if you see here, particulate matter, yes, we are having 100 milligram, 50 and 30. We BHL already having a full-fledged ESP where we are able to meet the emission norms of even 18 milligram. So BHL, we don't require any technology. We have a self technology where we are able to meet the norms of even less than 20 milligram. And if you come to SOx, SO2, so they have for the category 2 and 3, they have made the same these things. Less than 500 megawatt, it is a 600 milligram, and greater than 500 megawatt, it is a 200 milligram. And the plant which is going to be commissioned after January 2017, they are made very stringent. It is 100 milligram. And if you see here, NOx, it is 600, 450, and 100 milligram. For mercury also, they have kept a 0.03 for all the three categories. So recently, the survey has done by our team of a field engineering team, where we have measured the mercury level in the ash, and we found that the mercury level in the ash, Indian ash, is very less. Where as of now, we don't require any control over for the control of mercury. And water consumption. Water consumption, if you see here, as per the norms for the cooling tower, we have to meet 3.5 existing plant. We have to meet 3.5 meter cube per hour per megawatt. For the new plant, they have made two very stringent of 3 meter cube per hour per megawatt. Okay, so still the norms has come, but still some issues has to be still take up with the CA, because the clarity, some decision and some clarification still awaited from the CA. So if you see here, the first one, they have told 3 meter cube per hour for the new plants which is going to be installed, which is going to be installed after January 2017. But whether this will be applicable, this 3 meter for the seawater also, the clarity is not there. Second, then the chimney, they have made some clarity recently, and they are given a one revised formula, 100 or above. H is equal to 6.903 Q into 0.2277 to the power 0.55 or 100 meter. So based on this, we have to calculate the height of the chimney. So in case you are getting the height is 80 or 90 meter, minimum height of 100 has to be kept. In case you are getting more than 100 meter, example, you are getting 120 or 130, so height of the chimney has to get minimum 120, 130. So this is a clarification has been given by CA recently. And third one is the most important is emission of gases after the FGD. So see, our flue gas condition every seconds, because of this ambient condition, the flue gas temperature and all the parameters is changing. So when you are measuring some gases at the outlet of your equipments, we require some reference value. So the reference value has now dictated by the CA. We have to be measured value, and we have to correct it to the 6% O2 dry basis. And fourth one, still some clarification required whether the whatever gases we are measuring at the outlet of the equipment, whether it should be the continuous basis, or it should be hourly basis, or should be monthly basis, or daily basis. This clarification yet to become. And as you know, the old power plant, we have one-screw condensers, where we are having whether that one-screw condenser has to be changed to the cooling tower or not. So this decision still it's pending. So after these norms, you see, these are the scheme, how the scheme has been changed now. So normally earlier from the second pass, it was going to the air creator. Now it is going to the SCR. So SCR comes into the place where you have to be remove your NOx. From once the NOx is getting removed, then ESP is, the flue gas will be passed into the ESP, ID fan, and the FGD and chimney. So the appropriate location of the FGD in the power plant is in between your ID fan and the chimney. And in FGD we require very huge quantity of water, and small quantity of wastewater is also generated, which we are sending to the ETP plant or ZLD or is a ash pond. So now we see why FGD required and what is that SO2 mitigation technologies. See, as you know, Indian coal, we are having a fuel, in the fuel we are having a sulfur, which in the resulting in formation of sulfur dioxide. 95 to 96% of sulfur in the coal is converted into sulfur dioxide. And Indian coal range is varying. This is a typical figure what we have taken, 0.25 to 0.7%, and imported coal is a more than 0.7%. So even some of the cases we have found Indian coal also having a very huge sulfur content, when we have it is around 0.81% also. For typically, if you see 0.5% of sulfur, it is generating SO2 of 1800 to 2000 milligram, which we have to bring down now to the 100 milligram as per the norms. In case we have not controlling, what will happen? Definitely, suppose when your SO2 comes out of your chimney and there is a rain, this SO2 will react with your water and it form H2SO4, which we call as the acid rain. And when your acid rain will be falls nearing to the surface, near to the buildings, it will affect. You will got the corrosion of your buildings and structures, and if you inhale these gases, that definitely will affect your human health. So now you see the technologies. Okay, so these are the technologies globally available and mostly used in the TPP, thermal power plants. So wet lime or wet limestone based FGD, seawater based FGD, dry FGD, or dry sorbent injection, and ammonia based FGD. So one by one we'll see, briefly we'll see. So before going to the one by one, this is the appropriate location of the FGD system in the plant, thermal power plant. So dry sorbent injection, best location is just before the air preheater, just in the second pass of your after the economizer. And semi-dry FGD, the best location in between air preheater and ESP. And for the spray tower, best location is in between your ID fan and chimney. So spray tower will cover your ammonia based, your wet lime or limestone based or seawater based FGD. So now first we will see the dry sorbent injection. In the dry sorbent injection, the reaction is very simple and the system is very economic and very simple system, where in the second pass you will be adding only the sodium bisulfate. This sodium bisulfate will react with SO2 and half additional oxygen you are supplying through the blower to balance the reaction. And what we are getting is a sodium sulfate. This sodium sulfate will be passing along with your ash and collected in the ESP or the back filter. So reaction is very simple. Second is a semi-dry FGD. The appropriate location is between air preheater and the ESP. And here you are adding a hydrated lime. This hydrated lime will be prepared in the form of a semi-liquid, liquid, and this will be sprayed on the spray dryer we call as the absorber. And what is happening here, the SO2 which comes from the air preheater will be reacting with sodium hydrated and will be forming sodium CaSO3 plus H2O. So here what is happening, the process is entirely different. We call as the adsorption. So you are having a hydrated lime. What this SO2 will be go and stick on the surface of your hydrated lime. This we call as adsorption. And when it passes to the ESP, because of the heavier in nature, coarse in nature, it will get collected in the hopper of the ESP. Very simple process. And here from the we will be disposing to the silo. It go to the ash pond, and small amount of ash is recirculating in the dry absorber. Ammonia-based FGD, it is a very unique technology and very hands-count. Only 1 or 2 plants available in China, and in some plants are in Poland. It is not that much well proven. Still, it is in literature phase. If you see here, what is happening from the flue gas from the ESP, we have taken to the one pre-scrubber. Why they are giving the one pre-scrubber is, even after ESP, we are not removing all the dust particles. There will be some dust particles in the ESP. So in ammonia-based FGD, you require very clean gas. Like the emission should be less than 10 milligram. So for that, to remove the particulate matter, they are having a pre-scrubber where they washed over the ash, and the clean gas is passes into the main scrubber where it will be reacting with your ammonia. So from ammonia, which is stored in the tank, to the pump, it is a pumping into the absorber where you will be spraying over your SO2, and SO2 will get captured and collected in the bottom, and the clean gas will be goes out through the chimney. So what is happening here? This ammonia will be reacting with your SO2 and water. It will be forming ammonium sulfate. So once your ammonium sulfate is forming at the bottom of your tanks, then ammonium sulfate is what we have collected is a slurry nature. So now we have to be separate your solid and liquid. The fertilizer has to be separated from the liquid. So for that, they are having equipments called centrifuge. Hydrocyclones will be there in centrifuge. And the water which is being separated from the process again will be reused in the system. And the fertilizer which has been collected, it cannot be directly used as a fertilizer. It has to be further processed in the processing plant. Then after only we can be directly used as a fertilizer. Very simple process. So next is a wet limestone based FGD, mostly used in India. This is a schemes what we are following currently in India. The left one is mostly we are using for the new thermal power plants in India. So very simple scheme. I'm not going to explain in detail. We will just briefly, I will just touch upon here. So from the ID fan, it goes to the your GGH. From it go to the absorber, which we call as the heart of the system, where your SO2 will get captured. Then the clean gas through the GGH will go back to the stack. So here within the absorber, we are having only one stack. Whenever the plant, we are going for a new plant and all. So that time itself you can convert your chimney with either some special lining with borosilicate or titanium or some glass flake linings or C276 lining. So when FGD is operation, the corrosion or abrasion will be taken care by your outlet duct as well as for the chimney. And this is a system where you will be preparing your limestone slurry, and we will be feeding into the system as and when required when your pH level is down in the absorber. So this is the reaction which is happening into the absorber. SO2 will be reacting with water, which is happening here. And what we are forming SO3 and H plus ion. This is the acid, and this is a highly unstable. To make it stable, what we are doing here, we are adding another half O2. So half O2 will be added with the SO3, and we are forming SO4 here. So this is now stable. So now you see directly we are not using the limestone. How the SO2 will react with water first now? Same fashion we are using here limestone. Limestone also will react with the water first in the mill itself. So what we are forming here, calcium and bicarbonates. So basically I require these bicarbonates. This is alkaline nature. And because in the absorber you have collected the acid. So I want to neutralize this one. Before going, I want to tell you one thing. Acid rain, no? So acid rain is happening naturally. Same thing, we are creating the artificial situation in the absorber. Artificially, we are adding the water over your SO2, and we are making the acid and collecting the bottom. So there in the chimney outlet, we have chimney out. It is naturally happening. Whereas in the absorber, artificially we are creating the acid rain. So now acid is formed. Now you are formed the bicarbonates. So now you see the fourth reaction. Your calcium will react with sulfate. Anywhere in the tank already you are having enough water. So water will reacting. What is forming gypsum? CaSO4.2H2. This is gypsum. Even though gypsum is get formed, but still it's not neutralized. So neutralize what we require? We require the bicarbonates. So these bicarbonates will react with the acid, and what is forming here? Oxygen and H2O, and a small amount of CO2 was generating during the reaction. So now it is neutralized. Now you can bleed out to the next system. This entire system we call it a dewatering system. See, gypsum is getting formed. You will having 70% water and 30% solid, or it be 80% water or 20% solid. So you cannot, you have to be separate na solid and liquid. So separation of solid and liquid, we are having entire system we call as a dewatering system, where your solid will be get separated by the hydrocyclone and the vacuum filter, and gypsum cake will be get formed in the gypsum shed, and the liquid during this which is getting separated now will be collected in one tank we call as a filtered water tank, and again we will be back to, we will be sending to the observer as a makeup water. So now we'll come to the second right side scheme. This is mostly used in an India power plant, since in the existing power plant our thermal power plant is not having any special lining or special material in the flue can. So in that case, when you going to use the FGD, because my FGD outlet gas is corrosive in nature, I cannot send it back to the existing chimney. So in that case, either I have to do lining in the existing chimney, or I have to provide the new chimney. So based on that, it has been deliberated which one is a cost economic option, and based on that, it has gone. NTPC has gone ahead with the new stack chimney, because if you want to do lining on the existing stack, you require minimum shutdown period of your plant for 3 to 4 months, which will be having a generation loss. So in order to avoid the generation loss, NTPC had decided to go with the new stack principle. So this everything is the same. Only the difference is one more chimney will be get added up with the special material. That's it. So now we'll come to seawater based FGD. See, there is no difference between the seawater and your wet limestone based FGD. Only one difference is the water, fresh water we are adding to neutralize. See, in the limestone, we are artificially creating the bicarbonates for neutralizing my acid, where in the seawater, naturally bicarbonates are available. So this process is very simple process, and it is very economic when your power plant is located near the coastal area. So what we are doing here, from the condenser, we are diverting your water to the observer through the sump with a very high pressure. We are putting into the observer, and we will be capturing your SO2 and your acid effluent water again back to the basin, aeration basin and dilution basin. So before sending to the sea, as you know, there is some marine norms. Like a COD and BOD, your chemical oxygen demand and biological oxygen demand, and your pH of your seawater should be more than 7, and COD and BOD should be greater than 7. So when you are removing SO2 now, your COD and BOD will be come down, because if the oxygen will be consumed in the reaction. So in order to increase the reaction in the water, what we are doing here, we are adding the aeration blower. So when you are adding the oxygen, your COD and BOD will be get improved, and fresh water directly we are adding with the effluent water, your pH also will get improved. Then it will be diluted in one basin, then it go back to the sea. Very simple scheme. See, the only the difference between the wet limestone and seawater is, in wet limestone we are creating these bicarbonates, where in the seawater artificially available. The number of equipments, everything is very less. So we have seen all the technologies. Now we'll see how to select the technologies. When have to select the appropriate technology for the power plants. So we have categorized here based on the unit size. Less than 250 megawatt, it should be low, and greater than 210 megawatt, it is a medium, and greater than 500 megawatt, we have categorized high. And based on the SO2 removal efficiency, also we have categorized 70 less than 70% removal low, less than 90% medium, and greater than 90% high. So now we see we are having a major technology is a wet limestone, semi-dry, and DSI. So for the wet limestone technology, best suited for the medium and high. So, and for the semi-dry is the best suited for the low to the medium. This both are same. So semi-dry and DSI is the best suited for to the low to the medium. And if suppose you the plant life is you are having remaining 15 to 30 years, it is the best suited to go with the wet limestone based FGD. If the plant life is a 5 to 25 years, and it is category, it comes under the low to medium category, better to go with the semi-dry FGD. If the plant life is less than 5 years, as you know, some of the retiring plants, the CRC has given up to to December 2025. So that plants and all, it's better to go with the DSA technology. And if I see in the terms of like reagent cost, reagent available, it is a very easily available. sodium for this semi-dry, it is a hydrodynamic very moderately. Where in the case of reagent available, it is a very difficult, but not that much easy. Okay, and for the reagent cost is a very low. If you take per 10, it is around 2,000 to 2,500 rupees. If it is like a semi-dry, it's a moderated. It's around 5,000 something. And DSI, the reagent cost is very very high. It is around 20 to 25,000 per ton. It is like you're burning your money on the boiler. Space requirement, definitely it is required more space because major systems are there, like a wet ball mill system, gypsum dewatering systems, and you require a special new chimney, new stacks are required. So definitely more space are required. Here the medium space is enough. Is the space is available between your aspirator and ESP. It's the best suited to go with a dry FGD with if you're having a less than 210. And here the space requirement very less. If you require very high efficiency, like more than 90%, best is a wet limestone SFGD. For medium, it is a semi-dry, and for low, it is a DSI. Plant load factor, where the plant is operating, the plant load factor is greater than 60%. Better go with the wet limestone SFGD. If it is a less greater than 50%, it is a semi-dry FGD. If it is less than 60%, it's a better with the DSI. Wet limestone, definitely new chimneys are required because the flue gas are wet in condition. It is a corrosive in nature. In dry FGD, no new chimneys are required. Whatever byproducts are generated collected in the hopper and bottom of the hopper. And in DS also, you don't have required any special chimneys. So this is a survey done by one company called Meke Power. So globally, every year they used to do the survey of the this FGD process worldwide. So they have told that in the report where the wet limestone gypsum process around globally 94% it is used. It is in the FGD application. It is in process. And if you come to the second one, it is a dry sorbent and semi-dry is around 4%. And seawater based, it is around 2%. See, seawater is a very good technology and very simple technology if your plant is having a once-through condenser and plant should be located near the coastal area. So it is the best suited to go with the seawater basically. So we have generally seen now. Now specifically, I want to explain you about what is the technology adapted by the BHE. So we are having a called what wet limestone based FGD we call as a DCFS, and seawater based FGD we call as a grid tower. So in wet limestone based FGD we call as a DCFS, where your flue gas will be entering from the left and will be rise up here, and we will be spraying from bottom to top through the recirculation pump. And when your flue gas goes up and your slurry also goes up, it have a contact with the flue gas. And when slurry goes to certain height, as you know, the slurry having because of the gravity, it will fall down. Because of then that time also we'll have a contact with the flue gas. So we'll have a double time contact with the flue gas. That is why our collaborator has named this technology as double contact flow scrubber. And the clean gas through the mist eliminator will go to the stack. So this is a best suited for the wet limestone based FGD for the Indian power plants. We are as of now what we are executing now. Seawater based FGD we are working as a tendering stage. Still in India we have not got any orders. It is in a tendering process only, but it is a very simple process. The flue gas will entering from the left, and you are having a one grid. When the purpose of the grid is like uniformly distributing your flue gas among your observer. Then the flue, and you will be spraying your sea water here, which comes out of your condenser, and your SO2 will be get captured and collected. The effluent water will get collected at the bottom, and the clean gas will go to the stack. Very simple process. The difference between the wet limestone and seawater is this is a closed circuit and this is an open once through circuit, open circuit. So here you will be having a 4 to 5 cycles. Here is a once through. So we are having a two technology for wet limestone basically. One is when you require SO2 removal of 97% up to 97%, we are going with a single tower DCFS. And when you require removal efficiency greater than 97%, we are going for the twin tower DCFS. So this I already explained you. This if you see here, how in the boiler you are having first pass and second pass. No, similar fashion we are having also having first pass and second pass. So if the flue gas will be entering from in the top, and we will be spraying in the first pass, first tower, and you will be remaining on 30 to 40% of our SO2 will get captured and collected in the bottom, and the clean gas will take turn here and will rise up here. And remaining SO2 will get captured in the second tower, and the clean gas through the mist eliminator will go to the stack. So basically what we are doing here, we are increasing the retention time of the flue gas so that we can capture more. So now we'll see typically what the space requirement in the FGD. So these are the slides that we have based on our collaborator experience. We have prepared this slide. So this x-axis is a megawatt rating. It's a plant capacity, and y-axis is a tentative space requirement for the FGD without gypsum storage area. Okay, so for 250 megawatt, it is around 12,000 meters square. For 500 megawatt, is a 16,000, 660, 18,000, and 800 megawatt is 20,000, and 1,000. Even in fact, they are given up to 1,000 megawatt. It is around 23,000. And if we come to the right side, this is gypsum storage area. How we used to calculate. This is a basic reference we used to prepare. Executed. We are using for the current projects. Typically, we are plotted for the 660 megawatt. You know what is the gypsum produced in your absorber, and you depends upon number of storage of your number of days. You can calculate what is the storage of gypsum meter cube. From there, suppose it is a 2,000. Directly you plot one straight line, and from that you can find out what is the area required. So typically for around 2,000 meter cube, the area is around 1,000 to 250 meter square. This is the area requirement for the storage of gypsum. So now we'll see in case there is a change in the CP norms in the future. So what are the things has to be taken care? Are any change has to be done or not? See, normally in FGD, we are designing all our FGDs at the load of BMSR load with very worst condition of your coal, and we are taking the appropriate margin on the equipments. So like you are having a fan, you are having a wet ball mill, you are having gypsum dewatering. So all the equipments will be designed for the BMSR load and with a margin of 10% or 15%. But normal when plant is running, it will be running at the TMCR load. So there itself we will be having a margin of some 10 to 15%, and over about you are having a margin where you are designing for the equipment of 10% margin over the equipments. So as we are telling, there no changes will be required in case suppose the norms in the future is going to be stringent. Only if any changes is to be required is only the absorber size. See, suppose there is many leakages will be happening in the boiler, or it will happen in the aerator, ESP, and the ducts. So there is an increase in the quantity of your flue gas. So when your flue gas it passes into the absorber with very high speed, definitely the capture, the reaction will not be that much effective, and there is a chance of SO2 carry over. So you have to be maintaining the absorber always to be less than 4 meters per second. Maximum it should be better. Maximum you can go 4.5. So in case it is going behind that, so definitely you have to be modify, or you have to do the R&M of your absorber. For remaining equipments like your booster fan, wet ball mill, gypsum dewatering, we are declaring here we don't require any changes in the future to meet like a worst case of like 50 milligram. With the current design philosophy, we can meet up to 50 milligram. So no changes required. Only changes required, it may be, it's a hypothetical situation, it may require also only for the absorber. So this is our modular design where our absorber will be in rectangle in shape. So this is the headers, and these are recirculation pump, and we are spraying. We are taking the spray through the spray pipe inside the absorber. In case suppose you want to enhance the size of your absorber, simply you can remove the casing of the one side, and you can extend the casing with the one recirculation pump and you can extend the length of your spray pipes. Very simple design. As I explained to you, ours we will be spraying from bottom to top. Suppose our spray height will be around 8 to 10 meter at the full load condition. Suppose the boiler the plant is operating 50 to 70% of load. In that case, what we can do it, we can switch off one or two recirculation pump. The spray height which we are spraying in the absorber, it can be reduced so that you can have a very good efficiency, very good savings in the auxiliary power consumption. And this is one of the unique patented technology of our collaborator. We used to call jet R sparger. We are not using like a fixed R sparger or side entry oxidation spargers. Our technology is entirely different. Where we are doing it, we are having a gas nozzles which we have keeping in the bottom of tank. A small part of the slurry from the recirculation line is feeding into the gas, and we are connecting into the oxidation boiler. So what we are doing it, very high jet pressure we are putting into the absorber. So what will happening, the slurry will be kept in suspension, and you will be converting your SO3 into SO4 in the tank. And in our case, we don't require any agitator to keep in suspension, because with the jet pressure of your gas, that will be keep your slurry in suspension. No external like agitation is required. And in our case, gas will be producing very fine droplets. See, finally, in the reaction, we require only half O2. No, if your droplet is very fine, then your percentage of utilization of oxygen will be very better. So that is why in our technology, we have our collaborator has defined. They have told that the gas, if you are using the utilization of oxygen is a 60%, where in the other case it is not so. It is a 30%. Our design is a very simple design. These are the spray pipes and these are the spray nozzles. And in case of any like maintenance, you want to do a spray pipe, simply put some temporary work over and you can replace your nozzles. In case of like during maintenance or in shutdown, you want to replace anything, we don't require any scaffolding. Simply you put some temporary work over the spray pipes and you can replace your nozzles. So now we'll see what is the capital cost of your FGD and increasing in the auxiliary power consumption. So you see here, these are based on the last 2.5 years, we have plotted based on the ordering has done in the India. So the if you see the average cost per megawatt is around 0.44 crores per megawatt. This is like including your GST everything. But if you see in India, the FGD market is fluctuating widely. It is not stable. We are telling the Indian market, Indian FGD market is not stable. And you see the value, if you want to see here, it is varying from 0.37 to it's going up to 0.7. In fact, it's very low, 0.29 also some cases. So as of now, it is not stable. It is highly fluctuating. And if you want to see here, OPEX, operating cost and all what we are having is a theoretical value. Actual value, as of now, we are not aware, because as of now, all the power plants is an advanced stage of like in installation. It is under erection and no FGDs has been installed so far. So that much information is not available in India for the OPEX cost. And definitely there is an increase in auxiliary power consumption, which is vary from 1 to 1.5%. Definitely you have to be enhance your coal, because see, someone 500 megawatt when you're consuming 1% is a 5 megawatt. So you for to increase your 5 megawatt, definitely you have to enhance your coal requirement in the furnace. No. So this is the value is very depends upon your percentage of your SO2 in the flue gas, and typical figure is around 1 to 1.5% of your unit rating. So these are the duration of your 30 months projects we have taken here as a typical case here. These are the basic activities where because since we are executing many around 61 observers in BHL. So these are the different activities where we are during the execution. We will be doing these milestones, and like a basic engineering will be a detail engineering. Then you're having a fabrication, ordering of BO items, then foundation, FGD construction, erection will be there, then erection of pipes and equipments. Then you're having an installation of your electrical instruments, commissioning, and that is a PG test will be there. So basic engineering and detail engineering, of course, it's taking 10 months. There's we cannot shorten less than this. And if you see here, the fabrication of equipments is around 12 months, and ordering definitely will be take 6 months. And if you see here, like a foundation and erection, all these things, maximum it will goes to up to 13 months. And next to highest is your erection of your observers, structures, and tanks around 15 months. Then the erection of your equipments, like your bought out equipments, that is around 15 months. Then next is your comes to your installation of your electric equipments, cables, all this 9 months to 6 months. Then commissioning will take around 7 months, because you have to do the commissioning of all your equipments independently. Then you have to do the commissioning of entire FGD. And PG test will be taking 1 month. So now we come to the stage where we have which is a superior one, which is an inferior technology. Now we're comparing on the wet limestone FGD. First one we have already explained. It is our technology. We call it as a DCFS. Very simple design. Will be spray from bottom to top, and our recirculation pump connect to the one common header, and the spray pump entering to the absorber. Second one is a unique technology. It's a conventional type spray tower where they are having a multi-level of spray pump. Multi-spray level will be connected to the each level one pumps, and their height will be around 20 meter, whereas in our case is around 10 to 15 meter. And they having a height will be starting from 20 meter, and each in between the space of header will be having 2 to 2.5 meter gap. And you see the flow in our flow and head in our recirculation pumps are same, where in the conventional type it is not same because the head is varying. Definitely the model of the pump will be get vary. The spares which is required in our case will be the same for all the pumps, where in the conventional it will vary because the head is varying. Third one is and you can see it is a staggered design where it is a very high pressure nozzles will be used to form the cone type. Third one is a unique technology where L&T is having a tie-up with the Chiyoda. and the flue gas with very high pressure will entering here into the sparger, and your SO2 will get captured in the bottom of tank where your slurry will be get stored, will be mixing here, and the clean gas through the maroon color sparger goes to the stack. So you see here your lighter media is your flue gas. It is a density is 0.8, and your heavier media is your slurry 1200 1250 density. When lighter media, when you want to put into the heavier, definitely high pressure will be required, no? So they require very dedicatedly high, very big booster fan to push this flue gas into the absorber. Where in our case, but they don't have the recirculation pumps and all. So in terms of like actually power consumption, we are at par with the other two technologies. So when you're comparing with our DCFS, when you're comparing with your DCFS with a JBR, you see they require minimum headroom when you are doing the maintenance, because you have to see towards upward. To any maintenance work, it's very hard. You have to force to look upward for that replacement. In our case, simply you can put one temporary walk over that, and easily you can walk, and you can replace your nozzles. Very simple. In case of spray tower also, they are having like a multi spray level, multi headers will be there, multi spray level will be there, and you have to be see from bottom to top, and you have to be doing a maintenance work is hard to look for upward, and for doing the maintenance of spray pipes and nozzles. In our case, it's very simple. So this as a recommendation, we are in the last conclusion. India. So the one we are suggesting here, the common absorber for multi-way boilers, then Stag integrated absorber, then GGS.
Mr. Shashikumar,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shashikumar, can you hear me? We
Yeah.
lost your slide. We request you to share your slides again. We lost you.
So now it is okay?
Yeah, I guess you have to go back to the previous slide, and yeah, sure.
Yeah, this one, no?
No, right after that. No, as in recommendation slide. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. So these are our recommendation. What we want to give the stakeholders. Third one is like GGH above the observer. Then common system for the limestone gypsum deordering, and the reusing of your heat by reusing of this existing stack by reheating the flue gas using the GGH. So first one is you are multiple when you are having multiple observer like 210 megawatts of 3 units or 2 units, you can combine all the 3 units and you can provide a new fan. Definitely your existing fan cannot take that much load, so you have to be give the new booster fan, and from the new booster fan we can give a common observer for all the boilers. This is one because all the Indian power plants, we have very high scarcity in the space. There is no space available near to the existing chimney where we can give your observer and then a new chimney. So in that case, when you don't have a space, so it's better you can give one common observer for the multiple boilers. This is one of the recommendation we want to give to. And third one is, as you know, the space will not be available to the existing chimney, and there will be space not available for the putting the new chimney. In that case, you can give the chimney over the observer, where your chimney observer height already it is a 30 to 40 meter, and as per the norms, minimum height of your chimney you have to make 100 meter. So another 60 meter of flue can be built over the observer, and with the support of your steel structure, and with this we can meet the norms, and you don't require any like RCC chimney in that case, since there is no space available. So it is better, we recommended you to go for the stack over observer where space is not available. Third one is third recommendation is we want to keep your GGH above the observer. So wherever you don't have a space near to the existing chimney and near to your observer, you can keep your GGH above the observer. So what is happening here? Your ducting and will be come down. Your special material will be come down. Your pressure drop of your ducting will come down. Due to this, your actually consumption in your booster fan will be reduced. So this is another recommendation we want to give here. You can keep the GGH above the observer. So the around 15% of your footprint area will be come down. Last slides, challenges what we are facing now. See, we are the FGD supplier. We are the EPC FGD suppliers. So most of the power plants, what we have got order and what is in tendering stage, most of the customers they want without knowing that parameter in that plant, they want to go with a superior material, which we are telling it is not. It simply don't copy paste from the other stakeholders. So first you have to analyze what is the parameter of flue gas parameter in your power plant, and based on your available water qualities and limestone, you have to be select the technologies and the materials, suitable materials. So you see here, everybody they want C276 clad sheet for the absorber. As you know, in India, the material is not available. C276 is imported, and we are fully depending on the USA and the Chinese party. So recently, there is a guidelines from the MOP that we cannot buy anything from the land sharing countries. So in that case, 7 to 8 bidders are there from the Chinese. Now we are earlier we are depending on the Chinese. Now there is a restriction; we cannot buy anything from the Chinese. So in that case, what we are telling that the minimum time for this buying this material, even from the Chinese, they are taking 10 to 12 months, and we will be doing some fabrication work in our shop, which is taking around 3 to 4 months, and we have to send to the site for the erection. It will take around 4 to 6 months. So by considering this, the time available of another 2.5 years, it's very difficult to meet the target of very aggressive timeline. So what we are recommending, based on your the parameter of your plant, we are suggesting some of the plant you can go for the glass flake lining. So this glass flake lining, it is a globally proven. Most of FGD bidders having this experience. Even in fact, our collaborator having much experience in the glass flake lining. The supply time is very less. It is a 1 to 2 months. The application time it is around 3 to 4 months. This will help us to meet the aggressive timeline given by the CA. So we are recommending you to kindly consider our recommendation for your plans, which because here glass like lining, I don't think every year you have to replace. There is a good vendors are available in India as well as globally. We can have which have a guarantee they are ready to give for 10 years. So after 10 years, you have to be do some minor works, patch works and all, and it can be sustained for another 5 to 10 years. So it is a recommendation we want to give here. Please consider the glass plate lining for the absorber and the duct, outer duct. Second point is sufficient space. See, during when we are working out in the tendering stage, the enough space has not been given in the tender. So what is happening when we are executing the project and after completing all our basic engineering, detail engineering, when we are going for erection, we used to there was an unforeseen obstruction both above and below the ground, so which taking more time for the execution, and which we are making more modification of which we have already supplied the items to the site. Again we have to bring back to our shop and do the modification, and to meet the site condition, actual site condition is taking a time consuming. So what we are requesting to all the stakeholders, please provide enough details during the tendering stage, enough space details and all, so that we can avoid the delay of modification in the during the execution time. Third point is sub QR. Sub QR means qualification requirement will be there, no, for major sub QR items. So if you see wet ball mill, we are having gypsum dewatering, recirculation pump, oxidation wet ball, and your booster fan. So normally customer are keeping oral guarantee, and apart from that they want equipment guarantee also, where they want to be all the vendor has to meet this sub QR. See, in India vendors are there. We know it's a limited vendor, but vendors are there where they are having experience of such things, but not they have not worked for any FGDs. Like if you take example, if you take mill, already people are supplied many mill, dry mill and all. So here we have to supply a wet ball mill. So because this we are putting this qualification criteria in the tender, the dry mill vendor is not able to quote it because they are not able to meet the qualification requirement. So what we are suggesting here to all the stakeholder, give some vibe of this sub QR, so that we can promote our indigenous vendor, and we can promote the government of India policy also to have some initiative for the Make in India concept. Fourth recommendation is as you know, the FGD it is not even though it is a new plant, but we are doing like a retrofit. It is like a brownfield only. So as you know, people in the tendering they are putting all the structures, everything they want superior, like they want a bolted connection, everything. So this bolted connection is well suited for the green field where you have enough space. Where in the existing field, we can see the structures, some buildings from the outside, but in the under the ground, we don't know what is how where the cable is routed, what is available in the ground. So when we are going for the bolted connection, everything should be available. That only we can have a perfect engineering, and all the structures, everything will be designed for that. In case any small shifting of 10 mm or 15 mm, then it is very difficult to do the erection at the site. So what we are requesting all the stakeholders, kindly give the option of building connection also for the structures, for of your casing and for the ducts and of structure and the structures of your pipe rack, everything. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Shashi Kumar. Wonderful and a blasting presentation, and it was very thoughtful and very technologically driven, where you shared all the possible services that BHEL can provide to the power industry. We have received a question from Mr. I would request Mr. Patel and Mr. Patra also to turn on their video so that we can start taking questions. Okay, so we have first question from Mr. Amar Shah to Mr. Shashi Kumar ji, that in case of common absorber, what will happen if the FGD system needs a shutdown? Before he answers that, I will request other delegates to start raising their hands or write their questions here so that we can take it to the speakers. Over to you, Mr. Kumar.
Can you come again? Please?
The question is, in case of common absorber, what will happen if the FGD system needs a shutdown?
See, FGD normally will be designed for the turn down ratio of like 50%. In case you are going for the shutdown of your FGD, suppose any one of the boiler is getting shut down, remaining it can be worked up to the turn down of 50%. There will not be any issues. You know, there is a recirculation pumps are there, which you have to be you have to switch off one or two pumps to based on your the current load. Suppose you are having 70% or you are having 60% load. Based on your load, you can switch off your one or two pumps. So there will not be any issue when you are having multiple observers. Common observer for all the things.
I hope that answers Mr. Shah's question, and request all the attendees to either raise their hands so that we can invite them on stage to answer to question, or you can write your questions here. If we do not have any more questions, we'll be wrapping up the session to move towards the networking. Then we'll move to the final. So looks like we do not have any more questions for our esteemed speakers. On this note, I would really like to thank Mr. Shyama Patra ji and Mr. Naresh Patil ji and Mr. Shashi Kumar ji for joining us for the 6th edition of SOXNOX Virtual Conference Expo and Awards. It was an absolute pleasure to have your presence, and we really look forward for your presence in the future editions to come.
Sure.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Akshay. Thank you.
Moving forward, we are taking a short networking break, more of a coffee break. So I would request all the attendees grab a cup of coffee or tea, and we'll be back again at 4:15 to move to the next sessions, which are mainly the technology people who will share the most innovative and the latest advanced technologies on how we can combat or we can control the emissions, and we can move forward with a greener and cleaner future. Thank you so much.